Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. So the power went out in my house last night for just a second. So of course my computer shut down. And when I started it back up, I had like 1,000 tabs open. So I clicked restore tabs to get them all back again, and they all started playing, which includes the OJ. The OJ started playing. Oops, not the right button. So when I realized it, I rewound it a little bit. Long story short, we might hear just a moment or two of testimony we heard at the end of the docket yesterday. But I would rather rehear part, because he's talking about the murders right now. So it's not a horrible part to catch up on, because this is the only real part of the trial. But that's why you might hear it all again.
The injuries did not happen that way.
Why is that?
A lot of force is involved, and a great deal more force can be generated by punching forward with a hand than by flailing backwards against a fence. There's not enough force generated, and it's kind of purposeless motion. This is typical for injuries in punching somebody, and which medical examiners, doctors see not uncommonly. And it'd be very odd to have it against a wrought iron fence and have to be a fence that was punched with the same degree of force that you'd punch a body, and that's hard to do by flailing backwards.
The evidence has shown that there were numerous or multiple stab wounds on Mr. Goldman. Did you count the number of stab wounds that he had?
Yes, I did. There are more than 22 stab wounds of various kinds. In addition to the 22, there are some other clusterings of wounds that could be individually called stab wounds, and maybe one could have 30 stab wounds, but at least 22, depending on how one counted them.
Would you agree that there are a significant number of stab wounds in Mr. Goldman?
Yes.
And did those stab wounds come from different directions, in your opinion?
Yes, they came from different directions, some front, some back, some from the side.
Now, is there any evidence that Mr. Goldman attempted to kick his assailant or assailants?
Yes, there is.
And what evidence have you found in that regard of Mr. Goldman kicking his assailant or assailants?
Yeah, the evidence would be that, I believe on his right shoe, there's a cut on the top of the shoe near the toe area, which is not proof that he kicked at somebody, but is indicative of that. When you went to the police department, the shoes, and see photographs of the shoes that Mr. Yes.
Goldman was wearing?
Yes. I'm sorry, sir. I'm also anxious to get out of here.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Please show you a photograph in the bottom right-hand corner.
So the number for this photograph, Your Honor?
Yes.
13?
16. Photograph. Do you see a photograph that shows the cut on the shoe of Mr. Goldman?
Yes.
And would you, with the court's permission, may he come point that out to the jury, Your Honor?
Thank you.
And perhaps, I don't know, do you have a magnifying glass that might be helpful to see?
I just happen to have one of those around, I think.
Thank you. Would you come and, with the court's permission, just show to each juror where, or pass it down? Can he point out the area, Your Honor, to the jury?
Yes, actually, Dr. Bob, why don't you, in the middle of the jury box, just point out what it is you're directing your attention to?
If you'll come here, Dr. Bob.
Your Honor, the only difficulty I have is this page has 4 apparent photographs. It appears that they're using one photograph, and that's the one that's marked for identification. I would ask that only.
Folded it over so we can pertinent photograph.
Thank you, Your
Why
Honor.
don't we put it on the elbow and you just point to where it is
Well, it's going to be hard to,
so that they know where to look.
where to look first. Okay, thank you. That's a good suggestion.
Thank you.
Actually, you can see it pretty good on this elbow.
There's a little horizontal cut up on the right shoe near the inner tip, is what I was referring to.
They got pretty clear.
Yes, yes, I didn't think we'd come across that clearly.
Right, sure, yes, it's
I did not see it, but
And if we can take
for me to do a trial
Right there.
like that, I would have to get it. I would have to have the trial. And I can't steal it from a copyrighted place or I would get in trouble.
Okay. Now,
I will look for it and see. But I'm thinking about doing lives at night. I'll think about it. I'll think.
based on
think.
what you have just testified to, do you have an opinion as to whether or not Ronald Goldman struggled with his assailants or assailant?
Yes, I have an opinion
And what is that opinion?
that Ronald Goldman did struggle with his assailant or assailants.
And what is the basis for your opinion that there was a struggle prior to the time he was killed?
Basis for my opinion is that he had multiple cut wound injuries over different parts of the body, front and back, face and neck, chest and abdomen, which occurred in different positions, that he had injuries on his hands indicative of protective, defensive, offensive wounds, that the blood on his clothing, remember the jeans especially, show that he was standing for time enough from the bleeding from the neck, the left jugular vein, to flow out of the cut down the left side of his body, down the jeans, staining the jeans, and into his shoes, which takes time. The crime scene also is indicative of a struggle with a lot of disturbance of the soil and earth in the area that he collapsed and died. And I think that the cut on the shoe is also indicative of a knife coming across that shoe at some point, indicative of a struggle.
You have just told the jury that Mr. Goldman's jugular vein was cut and blood would ooze from that.
Yes.
Would that injury prevent
Taking my
him
daughter to
from
work.
screaming?
I'll be back real soon.
No, he had no injury to his vocal cords or his body that would have prevented him from calling out, screaming, making words, or neither did Miss Simpson. She also was able, had no injury that would have prevented her from crying out.
In your opinion, was Mr. Goldman capable of screaming before his jugular vein was cut?
Yes.
In your opinion, was Mr. Goldman capable of screaming after his jugular vein was cut but before death?
Yes.
If there was an assailant who had his hand over Mr. Goldman's mouth to prevent him from screaming, would that necessarily leave any identifiable marks that would be seen at autopsy?
Covering the mouth and even the nose with a hand, as you say, would not cause any injury that could be seen at autopsy.
Would a hand over the mouth stop somebody from screaming?
If it were held tightly enough, yes.
Could a hand around the throat stop somebody from screaming?
A hand or a chokehold type with a forearm would prevent somebody from screaming, yes.
Would a chokehold or a hand on the throat leave any noticeable injuries that would be seen at the autopsy?
Not in this instance, no.
Now, I want to go back now and specifically direct your attention to the jugular vein cut and focus the jury's attention, if I might, on that. You described that cut as causing blood that would ooze. Is that correct?
Yes.
If a person is cut in the jugular vein and the blood is oozing, is the person still capable of standing?
Yes.
Is the person still capable of struggling?
Yes.
If there's blood that came down onto the right side of the shirt as a result of a cut on the jugular vein on the left side, would that have any effect on your opinion as to whether or not there was a struggle?
No.
In viewing this injury to the throat, do you have an opinion as to how long Mr. Goldman could have been standing after that injury?
In my opinion, to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, after the jugular vein was cut, from the time of the cutting until he would collapse because of blood loss, could be many minutes.
Could a person survive that wound?
Yes.
How long could a person survive that wound?
If a person is brought promptly to a hospital, as opposed to the carotid arteries, which which causes the injury to which caused the death of Miss Simpson, which caused rapid bleeding very quickly and cuts off oxygen going to the brain. The veins, the jugular vein, is a low pressure system, and it's bringing blood back to the heart, and it bleeds very much more slowly. And it would take many minutes of bleeding from the jugular vein to lower the blood pressure enough so a person would even get woozy and fall to the ground. At that time, the person would still be alive.
Was there a thigh wound observed on Mr. Golden?
Yes,
What side?
on the left side through the pocket area.
And was there a lot of blood on Mr. Golden's left pant leg?
Yes,
And was there a lot of blood on Mr. Goldman's left shoe?
yes.
I'm almost finished, Your Honor. I mean, they had a long time on there.
My understanding is that we covered things.
Well, I want to tie this all together in a different way, if I may, please. And what does that indicate to you in relationship to what position Mr. Goldman was at?
That at the time of the thigh wound, he was still standing because the blood was going still downward together with the blood coming down from the left side of the neck.
And would that be consistent with him standing during a struggle?
Yes,
Did you observe 2 wounds to the chest of Mr. Goldman?
yes,
Did those wounds pierce his lung?
yes. There were 2 stab wounds to the right side of the chest that caused lacerations in the lower part of the right lung.
And did you observe a stab wound on the side of his abdomen that pierced his aorta?
Yes, there was another stab wound on the left side of the abdomen that went from left to right through the aorta about 1.5 inches above the belly button.
Would you describe to us, please, what the aorta is and where it's located in the body?
The aorta, as we remember from biology days, is the main blood vessel that brings blood with oxygen from the heart to the rest of the body. As the heart pumps out blood, the blood comes up the aorta, 20% goes up to the head and brain, and the other 80% goes downward to all the other organs and muscles of the body. The aorta is the largest blood vessel in the body and carries that 80% downward.
Now, of all the wounds you've described, they all bled. Is that correct?
Yes.
All 22 to 30 wounds.
Yes, except the superficial cuts on the neck may not have bled.
Is there a difference between internal bleeding and external bleeding?
Well, what it refers to is bleeding inside the body and bleeding outside the body. It doesn't, either way, has the same effect on cardiac function. If the blood gets out of the blood vessels, then it's not available to go to the brain, the kidneys, and the other parts of the body. In that sense, it doesn't matter whether it bleeds inside or outside if it's going to go out of the blood vessels.
Now my question to you is, on the jugular vein, would that cause external bleeding or internal bleeding?
External, it bleeds outside the body, and that's the blood that trickled down the chest and down to the left shoe, the left side of the body.
The thigh, the palm injuries.
External bleeding, and that's bleeding on the ground, on a perpetrator, outside the body.
The thigh injury.
Outside the body.
The chest and the aorta.
The chest and the aorta are internal bleeding, bleed inside the body. And the body captures that blood so it doesn't get lost, but it's not useful blood.
Do you have an opinion as to which came first? The cut of the jugular vein or the stab wounds to the chest?
In my opinion, to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, the cut wound of the neck came first.
How much blood is contained in an average adult male?
About 5 quarts.
How long, you've told us, well, let me ask you this in this way. How long could someone survive after having a jugular vein cut? How long could they survive?
Assuming it's a transection, a cut, as in Mr. Goldman, cut completely through, a person with a jugular vein cut could stay alive, not necessarily conscious, for 10, 20 minutes, if it's untreated. Much of that time he might be unconscious.
And how much blood would accumulate in the chest cavity as a result of the chest wounds here? Do you have any way of knowing how much blood accumulated?
Yes.
And how do you know that?
Dr. Golden, in doing the autopsy, as is appropriate, measured the amount of blood that was in the cavity surrounding the lungs. That measures the amount of blood coming out of the right lung. It was two of them, the right chest and the right lung. And he estimated, he said between 100 and 200 cc. It's about 3 to 7 ounces of blood.
Can you tell this jury with a reasonable degree of medical certainty how long it was between the time Mr. Goldman's jugular vein was cut and he was stabbed in the chest?
Yes.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen
Okay.
how long that was.
100 to 200 cc of blood is a very small amount of blood to bleed from stab wounds of the lung. So my opinion, to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, is that when he suffered the stab wounds of the lung, his heart was not functioning properly. He had already, the blood pressure had fallen considerably so that not much blood could flow out of the damaged lungs. So in my opinion, the reason that Mr. Goldman died was because of the blood loss from the internal jugular vein laceration. That was the major source of the bleeding, even though he had other wounds. None of them bled as much. And that it would have taken about 10 minutes, certainly not less than 5 minutes, for enough blood to be lost, 1,000, 1,500 cc of blood to be lost, that the lung would not be pumping out blood when the lungs were stabbed. Because my opinion is based on the fact that when the lungs are stabbed, the heart is not pumping effectively. And it would take at least 5-10 minutes for the heart to stop pumping effectively after he started bleeding from the jugular vein.
Could it have been as long as 15 minutes between the time the jugular vein was cut and the chest wounds?
There's so many factors involved, individual factors, it's possible. Yes, it could be. It could be.
Do you know when in the struggle, in time from the beginning to the time, how much time elapsed before Mr. Goldman's jugular vein was cut?
No, no.
Could have been 1, 2, 3 minutes into the
Yeah,
struggle?
there could have been a struggle going on, hand cuts, other injuries. I can only start dating the length of time to die once the left jugular vein is cut. At some point, the left jugular vein gets cut, and then he will bleed slowly for many minutes until his heart can no longer pump blood when his lung is cut.
Was the cut to the chest, which you have told us could have been as long as 15 minutes, more likely 10 minutes, and as little as 5 minutes after the jugular vein, was that necessarily the last wound to Mr. Goldman?
No, no.
If Ronald Goldman began a struggle with his assailants at 10:40 p.m. within a reasonable degree of medical certainty, can you tell us when the stab wound to the chest would have occurred?
My opinion would be at least 5 minutes, more likely around 10 minutes after the neck started to bleed.
So if the struggle started, just take basic minimum times now, if the struggle started at 10:40, taking into account that there could have been injuries and struggle before the jugular vein was cut, and there could have been injuries after the chest, what is the earliest time that he would have been cut in the chest, in your opinion?
In my opinion, 10:45.
Could have been as late as 10:50
Yes,
or later.
yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And good afternoon, Dr. Bodden.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kelberg.
Dr. Bodden, a couple of preliminary questions. Number one, I have never retained you on behalf of the District Attorney's Office to review any case of our office. Is that correct?
I've spoken to you in the past,
Sir, my
but I
question-
have not been retained by you.
In fact, I reminded you, our only previous professional contact was you were retained by a lawyer representing a physician I was investigating in a case of possible physician-assisted suicide. And that was our contact, a brief telephone conversation about some of your findings. Recall that, sir?
A telephone conversation. I don't remember how brief it was.
So, sir, I have never retained you on behalf of our office, correct?
No, not that I'm aware of.
You have never been an expert witness on behalf of our office in a case in which I've been the prosecutor?
I'm not sure about that. I was advised that you had suggested me to...
Your Honor, I'll move to strike.
Repeat it?
The question was, sir, you have never testified on behalf of our office in a case in which I've been the prosecutor, correct?
That's correct, as far as...
And in fact, doctor, you have testified on behalf of our office in trial on only one incident the Boggs case, although you've testified in 2 separate trials. Isn't that correct, sir?
No, that's not correct.
Sir, you said that Kathy Evelyn Smith's case, the Belushi case, you testified at trial. That's your recollection?
That's my recollection. Yeah.
Didn't she plead guilty to involuntary manslaughter and that you testified at the preliminary hearing, not at the trial, sir? There was no jury. Isn't that correct?
I remember being cross-examined by Mr. Weitzman and being examined by Mr. Montagna. I remember it as a trial. Maybe it's a different name for it.
If it wasn't a trial, if there wasn't a jury, if it was a preliminary hearing, then it would be correct to say, isn't it, sir, that you have only testified on behalf of our office rising out of one case, the Ellis Green death.
I have testified at trials where there are no juries. I've testified at bench trials, so I don't know.
On behalf of our office, sir.
Look, Mr. Kelberg, you know better than I what happened with Mr. Belushi. I testified at the grand jury. I testified in some kind of a court setting. Maybe it wasn't a trial. I don't know.
Doctor, please listen to the question carefully. Sir, is it accurate to say that you have testified in trial with a jury present on behalf of our office only in the cases arising out of the death of Ellis Green, the Boggs, Hanson, Hawkins case, prosecuted by Mr. McKenzie? Isn't that correct, sir?
I said to you, I don't know that. I remember testifying at the Belushi, what I thought was a trial.
And if that wasn't a trial, then is the answer yes?
Yes.
And, sir, that death occurred in 1988, didn't it? The Ellis Green death?
I believe so.
And you were retained in 1989, weren't you?
I believe so.
Have you been retained by our office at any time since 1989 for any case other than the Boggs, Hanson, Hawkins case?
Just the recent trials on Hanson and Hawkins that just completed.
My question was, sir, have you been, and please listen carefully, have you been retained by our office since 1989 on any case other than the Boggs, Hanson, Hawkins trials arising out of the death of Ellis Green in 1988?
No.
Doctor, how much money have you been paid for your involvement in the Simpson case to this point in time?
It's about 70 times 1,500, which would be about $100,000.
Well, you said that you've been out in Los Angeles for about 70 days since the middle of June. Is that correct?
Yes.
You did work on this case well before coming out here in June for this 70-day period, didn't you, sir?
I've done a lot of work in New York.
Yes. And, sir,
Yeah.
you were billing for that time, too, aren't you?
No, I'm only billing for the time I come to Los Angeles.
How many hours have you spent on this case prior to coming to Los Angeles?
Today? Now?
Prior to coming to Los Angeles in June, sir, how many hours have you spent on this case?
June of what?
Of 1995, when you started your 70-day period out here.
That's incorrect. That mistake.
Doctor, is it correct to say that since June of 95 you've been out here for 70 days,
No.
or 70 days from the time you first got involved in the case and came out on June 16th?
70 days from the time I was first involved in the case in June 14th, 1994.
And you arrived here on June 16th, I think was your testimony.
94.
Correct.
Yes.
All right. Other than those 70 days then, sir, how many hours have you spent on the case?
Oh, I would imagine 100, 200 hours in New York City from when I was in New York, for which I didn't bill.
Now, sir, you said on direct that you've spent at least 200 hours on the phone with Mr. Shapiro on the case. Was that accurate testimony?
I spent a lot of time on the phone with Mr. Shapiro, for which I don't bill him.
Did you say you spent 200 hours?
I don't recall.
Well,
My
if you-
memory, if I said it, I said it, yeah. I spent a lot of time on the phone with Mr. Shapiro.
Are those calls primarily calls when you're in New York and he's in Los Angeles?
That's correct.
Now, sir, isn't your usual billing rate for parties that retain you $250 to $300 an hour?
That's correct.
So if you were to charge for those 200 hours of phone calls, that would be another $75,000, I'm sorry, $60,000 if it's $300 an hour. Isn't that correct? Doctor, let me briefly move to another area and I'll come back to this. In Mr. Cochran's opening statement, he referred to you as one of the foremost pathologists in the United States. Do you agree that that is an accurate description of you?
I don't characterize myself. I'm a forensic pathologist. There aren't too many forensic pathologists around in this country, and I'm one of a small group of forensic pathologists.
You've known Dr. Lakshmanan Satyavajaswaran since about 1975.
Yes,
Do you consider him one of the foremost forensic pathologists in the United States?
I think he's a fine person and
My
a good forensic pathologist.
My question, sir, is do you consider Dr. Lakshmanan Satyavajaswaran to be one of the foremost forensic pathologists in the United States?
I would say that no.
Now, doctor, do you consider yourself one of the foremost pathologists forensic pathologists in the area of time of death determination?
I consider myself an ordinary forensic pathologist trying to do what we're taught to do and what our experience teaches us to do as best we can.
Do you consider yourself expert as a forensic pathologist in determination of time of death?
I think as much as all forensic pathologists have expertise and experience in determining time of death.
Do you think you have-
And since I've been at it longer than most, I have a little more experience than most, but I don't consider myself foremost in anything. I'm just trying to do the best I can.
Doctor, did you bring your curriculum vitae with you?
I don't think I have one with me, no, but I think attorneys may have.
Well, I have a copy in case Mr. Shapiro doesn't. I'm sorry? May I borrow yours then, because I assume that's going to be the most up-to-date? Okay. Your Honor, I have a document labeled Curriculum Vitae, Michael M. Bodden, M.D. May this be marked as the people's next in order. 579? May I, for the record then, on the front page, I'll write 579. May I approach? Dr. Bodden, let me show you this exhibit 579. Are you familiar with it?
Yes.
And that is, in fact, the curriculum vitae you provided to Mr. Shapiro to provide to us?
It's a curriculum vitae provided to Mr. Shapiro at some point.
May I collect it, Your Honor? In fact, why don't you hold on to that copy and I'll use, I think I have another one. And Doctor, this is the same curriculum vitae that was used by Mr. McKenzie in the Hawkins-Hansen case when you recently testified, isn't that correct?
I would imagine so. I'm not sure.
Now, sir, you in this document include your professional publications, don't you?
Yes.
Have you ever published an article in any forensic pathology text on the subject of time of death determination?
I don't believe so, no.
Have you ever published an article in any recognized forensic pathology text on the subject of sharp force injuries, including stab wounds?
Not specifically, no.
Doctor, have you ever published a chapter in any recognized forensic pathology textbook on the subject of blunt force trauma?
No.
Have you ever published a chapter in any recognized forensic pathology textbook on the subject of blood spatter analysis?
No.
Have you ever published a chapter in any recognized forensic pathology textbook on crime scene collection?
No.
Doctor, have you ever published a chapter in any recognized forensic pathology text on the subject of shoe print analysis,
No.
shoe print comparison?
No.
Have you ever published anything in any peer-reviewed journal on any of the topics I just gave you?
No, I haven't.
Doctor, you're familiar with Dr. Spitz
Yes.
and his book Spitz and Fisher,
Yes.
3rd edition?
Yes.
In the 1st edition, you did publish a chapter. You were a contributor to a chapter in that book, weren't you, sir?
I wrote a chapter
What was that chapter about, sir?
on drug abuse.
And in fact, that is what you claim to be your primary area of specialty within the field of forensic pathology. Isn't that the case?
Not quite.
Well,
If I
sir,
may-
I'm sorry.
If I may answer.
Sure.
It's the area that I did most of my publishing when I was in New York City, and we used to see a lot of drug abuse deaths. So that was the area that I had special interest in.
And sir, when you say that's where you published most of your materials in your curriculum vitae, you list 80 publications, don't you?
Yes.
And of those 80, what number relate to the subject of drug and or alcohol?
The great
abuse?
majority. I'm sorry. The great majority.
And doctor, when did you publish, well, if you look at your curriculum vitae, item 73 is published in the Journal of Trauma in 1979. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then the next, starting with 74 through 80, I'm sorry, 74 through 79 go through the period of 1980, 81, 83, 85, correct?
Yes.
Now, sir, what have you published since you left the medical examiner's office in New York City in 1985?
Well, I wrote a book that you may have, and I'm in the process of writing a textbook
Now, the,
where I'll cover the points that you've raised.
the book that you wrote, you've told us about, you gave the title as Unnatural Death Confessions of a Medical Examiner, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that was meant for public reading.
You would not hold this out as the kind of forensic pathology textbook, for example, that Spitz and Fisher's medical legal investigation of death is, would you, sir?
That's correct. The latter is a textbook, and this is meant as a nonfiction book.
Or, for example, Dr. Knight's forensic pathology text?
That's correct. It's not a textbook. It's a,
Now, sir, when you've testified at least 1,000 times in your 30-year career, haven't you, sir?
including grand juries, certainly, yes.
And, sir, you're commonly asked, since you wrote this book, aren't you, on direct examination, the title of the book?
I'm sorry?
When you're questioned by the party calling you as a witness, you're commonly asked to give the title of this book, aren't you?
Sometimes.
And don't you, without variation, give the title as unnatural death when the question is asked by the party calling you?
No, it depends. The title is unnatural death. Its subtitle is Confessions of a Medical Examiner.
Isn't it usually through cross-examination that you have to testify that it has a subtitle, Confessions of a Medical Examiner?
No.
Doctor, the subtitle, Confessions of a Medical Examiner, does that imply that you have sins that you confess to in this book?
No, it doesn't. It implies that the United States has sins that we have to address.
Doctor, are you critical at all of yourself in this book?
Sure,
How?
I'm part of the problem, that there is the investigation of unnatural death in this country, and it's one of the themes of my book, is a national disgrace, that most instances where autopsies are done, investigations are done, and people are murdered, there's 75 people today who are murdered in the United States, and the great majority of those murders are being investigated by persons not trained to do those investigations, including physicians who are trained to be good hospital doctors, but who are not trained in forensic pathology, and that's why lots of mistakes occur in this country, and it has a relevance to capital punishment.
Doctor, my question was, for example, you are critical of the autopsies performed by a number of doctors in cases that you use as case examples in this book, are you not?
Yeah, I do refer to cases, to autopsies, including that of President Kennedy, that were not done to the standards of a proper forensic pathologist.
You are critical of a number of physicians who performed autopsies in cases that you use in this book. Isn't that correct, sir?
Yes.
Are you ever critical in this book of any autopsy you ever performed?
I'm critical of my early attitudes, you know, when I was starry-eyed and thought the media and the attention was a positive force.
My question-
But I don't think I'd have to look through it again. I haven't really read through it in a long time.
Well, sir, can
You
you
can
remember
tell.
any incident
In which I'm critical of me?
of where you are critical of any autopsy you performed?
I believe so, but I don't have anything that I can recall at this moment.
Well, maybe if we don't finish today and you're back tomorrow over the evening, I'll be glad to lend you my copy.
If
you
that
want to take a look.
possibility exists, I will be glad to do that, Mr. Kelberg.
Now, doctor, in fact, you alluded to it, I think, on direct exam, but let me go to an area in your book that discusses your attitude towards the press. If I could have just a moment, Your Honor. Did you write this in your book? I liked the reporters and the television cameras. The fact that they were covering my work added importance to it, an extra dimension. The visibility counterbalanced the low esteem in which we were held by the rest of the medical profession. Forensic pathology was filled with misfits. It was considered a dumping ground for incompetence, a field that alcoholics descended into, a refuge for doctors who couldn't make it in the real world. Did you write that in your book, doctor?
Yes, and that reminds me, that's being self-critical. I'm entering a field that is poorly thought of by other physicians.
Doctor,
Absolutely.
is that critical of your performance of an autopsy?
It's my
Well, doctor, do you still like the press?
I think the press has a duty to inform the public. I think that it's a siren's call for the forensic pathologist, because it can only lead to trouble for the forensic pathologist.
Doctor, my question, though, was, do you still like the press?
Not in the sense that you read from it. I think I have the highest regard for the press and the job the press attempts to do, but I think that the medical examiner has to be very wary of the press and what's in the long run.
Doctor, have you appeared on any television program since you've been retained in the Simpson defense to discuss this case?
As I recall, I came to Los Angeles on the June 16th, and I did appear on a number of television programs immediately thereafter, but on June 22nd, after going to the coroner's office and being finally allowed access to the various materials, I stopped having any contact with the press, as I recall.
Doctor,
There may have been one time after that I spoke to somebody.
did you appear, for example, on June 18th, 1994, on a CNN program, Newsmaker Saturday?
I appeared on programs, yes, until June 22nd. The idea being to try and get...
I'll move to strike as
yeah,
non-responsive.
I did. I don't know about that, but I did appear in the press between the 17th and the 22nd.
And did you, as part of that interview, say that your job as part of the forensic team is to assist in identifying evidence, collect evidence, document it, and interpret it in the light of, to make a judgment as to whether or not he, meaning Mr. Simpson, is guilty or not of the crime, and whether there's mental reasons that comes long after the initial investigation as to whether he's being falsely accused? Did you say that, sir?
I don't recall that, but I don't recall that. So, I mean, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Would you like to see it
No, I'm sure I said something like that. My role was to identify whatever...
I'll move to strike as non-responsive.
All right, we're going to take our recess at this point. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our mid-afternoon recess. Please don't run on the issue studio, and we'll be recessed for 15 minutes. Dr. Eaton.
Thank you.
All parties are again present. David McNair, let's have the jurors, please. Please be seated. Record to reflect we've been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel, that Dr. Michael Bodden is on the witness stand undergoing cross-examination by Mr. Kelberg. Mr. Kelberg, you may continue.
Thank you. Good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen, and to you, Doctor. Doctor, I don't believe you gave on direct examination whether or not you are presently employed full or part-time with any New York State police agency. You did not make any mention of that, did you, sir?
I don't think I was asked that.
Okay. Are you, in fact, a part-time employee of the New York State Police?
Yes.
And, in fact, what is that part-time employment, sir?
I'm co-director of the Forensic Sciences Unit of the New York State Police. That's a half-time position.
In fact, that obligates you to give them a minimum of 20 hours a week, correct?
A minimum of 20 hours, but I'm on call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, or have to provide coverage.
How many forensic pathologists are associated with that New York State Police unit of which you say you are the director?
I'm the co-director. Dr. Lowe Levine, a forensic dentist, is the other co-director. And we split one position. There are about 8 forensic pathologists who are associated with our unit.
Are there any who are full-time employees?
No, no,
Is one of the people associated with that Dr. Wolf?
no.
Is Dr. Wolf is not associated with the unit of which you are a co-director?
That's correct.
Is Dr. Wolf employed at all by the Albany State Police?
Dr. Wolf has been director of anatomic pathology at Albany Medical Center and is a forensic pathologist to Albany County and to about 20 other counties in upstate New York, about 63 counties in New York State, and she covers a great number of them.
How long has Dr. Wolf been a board-certified forensic pathologist?
Sustained.
Your Honor, maybe you heard on this?
Sustained.
Dr. Bodden, did you bring Dr. Wolf into this case?
Sustained.
Dr. Bodden, did you bring Dr. Wolf into the Boggs, Hanson, Hawkins case for the trials of the last 2 defendants?
Sustained.
Dr. Bodden, is Dr. Wolf going to be the co-editor of this book that you say you're in the process of preparing?
She and I are working on a textbook of forensic medicine, yes.
And in fact, who, if anyone, is writing the chapter on sharp force injuries?
I will.
And has that been done yet, sir?
No,
Are
not
you gonna-
completed.
Are you going to use this case as an example for that chapter?
I don't know, Mr. Kelberg. I doubt it. I wouldn't use any case that can be identified.
Doctor, is it usually the case that with recognized forensic pathology texts or any other field of medical text, that the editors are usually physicians who have vast experience in the area the textbook is covering?
Not necessarily. There's not many texts that are written by people who have little experience. That's why we don't have too many good texts about.
And therefore, let me ask you again, how long has Dr. Wolf been board certified in forensic pathology?
Sustained.
Doctor, you said you've done personally over 20,000 autopsies, is that correct?
Yes,
And in fact, the overwhelming bulk of those autopsies were done when you were still with the New York Medical Examiner's office, isn't that correct?
that's correct. Yes.
And that was a situation that you terminated 10 years ago, isn't that correct?
I left the New York City Medical Examiner's office in 1985, yes.
And sir, of those 20,000 autopsies that you, or over 20,000 that you personally performed, how many of them were multiple murder cases arising out of a single incident?
Well, I'd say a few hundred. I mean, we've had single incidents with 15 persons killed and down to 2, but a few hundred, I would imagine.
How many of those involved sharp force injuries as the cause of death?
I don't know. I would imagine a good percentage of them, half maybe.
Doctor, isn't it,
Or probably gunshot wounds would be a little more than half.
gunshot wounds would be more
Probably
than,
more than half.
Gentlemen.
gunshot wounds would be more than half of those multiple murder cases arising out of a single incident.
I would, yes, that would be my opinion as I sit here. I have never accumulated the cases in that manner.
Now, doctor, if you do roughly 1,000 autopsies a year, and that would be what would be required from 1965 to 1985 to get 20,000, right?
It would be starting in 1960, 1955, actually, but most of them would have been done between 65, from about 63.
Starting in 1955, doctor?
Yes, as a I started as a medical student to do autopsies as a volunteer. However, I didn't do that many until 62, 63 when I worked. I had an official job on weekends and holidays and vacation time.
You wouldn't be allowed to do criminal homicide autopsies when you were starting medical school, would you?
Not in medical school, no. Oh, most of these autopsies would be in non-criminal cases.
Now, doctor, roughly doing 1,000 autopsies a year for 20 years would be accurate?
A little less than that, right. That is approximately.
And would it be accurate to say that you took perhaps usually 2 weeks of vacation a year?
In my early days, I rarely took vacation, but maybe 2 weeks. Yeah.
So if you work 50 weeks a year, doing roughly 1,000 autopsies a year, you are doing roughly 20 autopsies a week,
That's correct.
personally doing.
That's correct.
And you said you supervised over 50,000 autopsies during the same period, isn't that correct?
I got to supervise more as I rose up. I became deputy chief, but the supervision came a little later.
All right, if we just took for average purposes, that 50,000 over 20 years would be roughly supervising 2,500 autopsies a year?
Well, that easily, yes.
And again, 50 weeks, so you're looking at another 50 autopsies that you're supervising, correct?
That's correct. Not that I'm doing, that I'm supervising.
You're doing 20 and supervising 50,
Yep.
and that means you're doing 4 autopsies a day roughly, working a 5-day week?
It worked out about 2 or 3 during the week and about 5 or 10 on weekend days. It varied.
And doctor, you have to prepare reports for each autopsy you do?
Yes.
And you have to testify in court sometimes?
Yes.
And sometimes you have to have your deposition taken if it's a civil case?
Rarely were there depositions. In New York State, it wasn't at that time a deposition-type case, and there weren't too many civil litigations that we were involved in.
Doctor, of those 20 a week, how many of them were criminal homicide autopsies?
Of 8,000 cases, about 1,800 autopsies, something like 20%, 15%.
And how long would a criminal homicide autopsy take vis-a-vis the kinds that were not arising out of criminal homicide situations?
It varies. It varied.
Some of them take less than a half an hour?
Not too many. Not the homicide cases.
No, other than the criminal homicide. I'm talking about the non-criminal homicide.
An hour, 2 hours maybe.
And some of these, did they not even involve dissection of the body at all?
The autopsies involved dissection of the bodies. There were many other cases that I would issue death certificates without doing an autopsy. Those are what would call sign-out cases where an autopsy wasn't needed. So we might have in the city of New York at that time something like 30,000 deaths reported to the medical examiner's office each year out of 60, 70,000 deaths. and of those, about 8,000 would be autopsied. The rest would not be autopsied.
Doctor, is there an organization of forensic pathologists nationwide that issues recommended guidelines as to the number of autopsies which should be done by a particular doctor on a particular day?
There are guidelines that are set by a national organization, yes.
And isn't the guideline for the number of autopsies to be done no more than 2 a day?
I believe now the guidelines might be 2 a day and more than 250 a year per doctor, but that's of recent vintage. That's in the past 10 or 15 years. In the 1960s and especially, we just worked morning to night to get the work done, and there were very few doctors in the medical examiner's office at that time.
Doctor, your work with the New York State Police pays you approximately $39,000 to $40,000 a year?
You're very good, yes.
Well, you've testified about this in the past, haven't you, sir?
If I've been asked that question, I've given that answer.
And that's the accurate answer,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
And, sir, your private practice, let's set aside the Simpson case. Are you still taking on other cases besides the Simpson case since you became involved in the Simpson case?
Not very much since my involvement in the Simpson this matter, but in general, I do other cases, and I will once this is finished.
And in fact, is it true, sir, that 3 to 4 times of your annual income is made from privately retained cases rather than the $39,000 or $40,000 you make from New York?
That's correct.
And in fact, you spend more than half of your time working on private retained cases rather than for the New York State Police cases. Isn't that correct?
I would think that's fair. That is counting the hours per week.
Now, Doctor, how many cases have you done where you've been privately retained? And by the way, privately retained, insurance companies have retained your services?
Yes.
And has that ever involved situations where the insurance company believes the decedent committed suicide and doesn't want to pay on the life insurance policy because there's a suicide exclusion?
It's not quite put that way. If the initial review by the insurance policy by the doctor on staff is that the cause of death is at issue or a question of suicide, which might exclude payment, then they would call myself or another forensic pathologist and ask us to review the case and ask us our opinion. If my opinion was that the person committed suicide, they'd act in one way. If my opinion was that the person didn't commit suicide, they might act in another way.
Now, you've also been retained by attorneys representing plaintiffs in civil actions,
Yes, sir.
and as you've said, by defense attorneys in criminal matters,
Yes, sir.
and by some prosecutors as well.
Yes.
And on these privately retained cases, you are paid, is that correct?
That's the intent. It doesn't always work that way, but I submit a bill, yes.
Now, Doctor, of those times that you've been retained privately, how many involve cases where you did not personally perform the autopsy?
Oh, in criminal or civil matters?
Altogether.
Well, commonly in insurance matters, I'm asked to review other people's work and the results, and in, I would say, a majority of my private practice, I review cases that other people have done, and I don't do an autopsy.
My question, though, sir, is approximately how many cases have you been retained on in your career for which you're paid, for which you did not personally do the autopsy?
Lots. I mean, we're going 30 years, back 30, 35 years. Many, many cases. Probably the majority. I'm just saying the majority of cases I'm retained on, I don't do the autopsy.
And in those situations, do you review any autopsy report that's been issued by the pathologist who performed the autopsy?
Yes?
Do you review photographs that may be in existence, whether police photographs or coroner office photographs?
Yes?
Do you review tissue samples if they are available?
Yes.
And doctor, when you do this, do you ever tell the party retaining you that you can't accept this work because since you didn't do the autopsy, it would be pure speculation for you to review these materials and render opinions?
No.
And in fact, have you ever turned money back after you've done a review to tell the party that retains you, I didn't do the autopsy, whatever I have in the way of an opinion from these materials would be pure speculation, here's your money back? Have you ever done anything like that?
That's not my opinion. No. If I agree to review a case, I'll review the case, and I'll do the best I can with the information available.
And in fact, you do render opinions in these retained cases based upon review of whatever was available, even though you did not do the autopsy.
Certainly.
Isn't that correct?
Absolutely.
And in fact, in the Boggs case that Mr. McKenzie retained you on, you didn't do the autopsy, did you?
No, I did not.
And in fact, you did review photographs, right?
That's true, yes.
And you did review an autopsy report by Dr. Sy, S.Y., Evancia Sy.
Yes.
And some of the photographs were taken of the body at the office of Dr. Boggs, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, doctor, you said this morning that you are critical of any forensic pathologist who would get on the witness stand and testify to possibilities. Isn't that what you said this morning?
I think what I said this morning was in the context of Mr. Shapiro's question, where all the opinions, or much of the opinions of on your witness, Mr. Dr. Lakshmanan, were couched in possibilities.
Sir, in fact, the questions were couched as follows. Doctor, is a set of circumstances consistent with certain findings? Isn't that how the questions were couched, doctor?
Many of them were, but that's possible. Is it consistent with, is difficult to interpret because it could be consistent with 1% or it could be consistent with 95%. And that's a delicate area to explain to the trier of the facts as to what my opinion is. My opinion is it's consistent with 1% that so-and-so happened. The jury should not give it as much weight as if it were consistent with 95%.
So, doctor, is it your use of the term possibility to relate to doctors who talk in terms of consistent with or inconsistent with when questions are posed?
What I said is that the witness, me in the blue chair, Dr. Lakshmanan in the blue chair here, can only answer the questions that the lawyers put to us. And I think we try to answer the questions the best we can. But if all we say is it's possible that it happened by a bushy-haired stranger who was right-handed from behind, yes, but it's also equally consistent with a bald-headed midget from the front who was left-handed. It's all, it depends on what kind of information I want to give across as an expert, but I don't have control over your questions or Mr. Shapiro's questions.
Well, doctor, if you feel incapable of rendering an opinion because you do not hold an opinion to a reasonable medical certainty, then you can say that as a response to any hypothetical that's posed to you by any lawyer. Can you not?
Oh, in most states,
I'll
I
move
would,
this- I'll
I
move
could
this
do
like
that,
as
but
not-
not here.
He understands.
Yeah.
You cannot do that
No,
here?
no. I think my impression is from the testimony that questions are permissible here that wouldn't be permissible in other states.
Well, doctor, my question, though, to you is, do you feel that you, as the witness, as the expert, in response to a hypothetical question, can say, I can't answer that. I don't have enough information. It would be speculation. I don't talk in terms of possibilities. I talk only in terms of reasonable medical certainty. Can you do that, sir?
Surely I can, but that's a compound question. Certainly, if I don't have enough information, I can't answer it. I'll say I don't have enough information. That's beyond my expertise. But I think that I'm at the, I have to answer the questions that are put to me and as best I can.
Well, and as best you can could involve answering, I can't answer that question because I can't answer to a reasonable medical certainty. That is an answer you could give, isn't it,
I could
sir?
give that, yes.
Now, sir, didn't you, in the course of your direct examination, at least 10 or 12 times, offer answers that included the word possibility when asked hypothetical questions?
I don't think so. It's possible. That's possible, but I don't think so. If I did, I'd try to couch it in the sense that I'm giving it with a different degree of certainty than if I answered to a reasonable degree of medical certainty so that the jury can distinguish what I'm trying to say.
Well, for example, the shoe. Remember the shoe photo that was shown?
Yes?
You said that cut in the front of the shoe? You said it was not proof of it that Mr. Goldman had kicked
That's
the
right.
knife, right? Not proof of it.
But it's my opinion.
Excuse me, you said cut on the top was indicative of kicking.
Yeah.
Isn't that correct,
Hey,
sir?
wait. He didn't finish asking the question. Let him finish.
Yes.
Let him finish answering the question as well.
Thank you, Your Honor, I will.
We will be here through tomorrow if we keep up like this. Let's move along. All right?
I'm trying to, Your Honor.
Let's get past the semantics.
By indicative, I meant more likely than not. More than 50%.
What's your definition of to a reasonable medical certainty, sir?
More than 95%.
So according to your criticism that you gave this morning, you should not be offering an opinion that you cannot say to 95% certainty. Isn't that your view?
Depends on the question. It depends what the question is, what the information that's being elicited.
Well, sir, did you ever qualify any of the answers you gave by saying this is not to a reasonable medical certainty, this is only something I feel 50% plus one, a sense of confidence in?
I don't think I used those words.
Well, did you qualify any of them?
At times I said it got monotonous to a reasonable degree of medical certainty when I gave answers.
Sir, have you ever heard the term beyond a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
Yes,
That's a term you've used, isn't it?
certainly. Yes.
Can you tell me the source for your knowledge of that term?
It's a term that's used in New York state courts. It's
Does
one of the, I'd have to defer to Mr. Sheka on that. It's a lawyer term that we're asked not uncommonly in New York.
Well, as a forensic pathologist, doctor, aren't you trained in the relationships between the law and pathology?
Oh, yes, but we're not trained in the law as such. I'm not a lawyer. I don't deemed to answer legal questions. I don't even know the difference between a hearing and a trial, as you pointed out. But what I'd say is we know knowledge that's applicable to the law.
Doctor, did you write in your report to Mr. McKenzie on the death of Ellis Green, among other things, it is further my opinion beyond a reasonable degree of medical certainty that the medical, autopsy, and toxicological findings presently available are entirely consistent with the cause of death being asphyxia by suffocation, and that Mr. Green's alcohol-impaired condition at the time of death made him vulnerable and susceptible to die from such a cause. Did you write that in your report?
I will take you at your word. Yes, it sounds right.
Sir, what does beyond a reasonable degree of medical certainty mean to you?
95, beyond 95% certainty, the same as to a reasonable degree of medical certainty. I'm not in a syntax mode there.
In your mind, to a reasonable degree of medical certainty and beyond a reasonable degree of medical certainty are synonymous terms?
They're used synonymously in New York courts.
Doctor, did you prepare a report for this case?
No.
In the cases where you were retained by our office, the Belushi case and the Boggs case, you either prepared a report or signed an affidavit spelling out your findings. Isn't that correct?
I did prepare a report, as you indicate, in the Boggs case, and I would be guided by whatever you said about Mr. Belushi.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Thank you.
Have you shown that to Mr. Shapiro?
Doctor, were you asked to sign an affidavit in order to extradite Kathy Evelyn Smith from Canada?
Yes, I remember that now.
And you read it thoroughly, in fact made some notations on it, didn't you? Before signing it?
Around 12 years ago, I assume so.
Now, doctor, why haven't you prepared a report in this case of your findings?
Well, I wasn't asked to prepare a report. I was in constant conversations with Mr. Shapiro, but I was not asked to prepare a report. It's not usually my custom to prepare a report without being asked.
And doctor, is that because you don't want to give the opponent any advance notice of what your views may be to prepare for cross-examination?
No, that's not so.
But
In fact, if you called me, Mr. Kelberg, I would have been glad to talk to you,
Doctor,
as we once did before.
We did, doctor, and that was arranged by the defense attorney, wasn't it?
I believe so, yes.
And then you had to cut short that conversation, didn't you? Because you were tied up at a convention.
I don't remember.
In fact, I was not permitted to finish questioning you. That we had to put it off for another time, and I was not permitted to follow up any questioning beyond the 20 minutes that I talked with you. Isn't that what happened in that case,
I don't
sir?
recall that at all, but I'm sure if you say so, I would think it's correct.
Now, doctor, you examined Mr. Simpson's hands on June 17th. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And, sir, did you document carefully each and every finding that you made in that examination?
I made notes, yes. I made notes.
And you've told us, I think on direct, how important it is for a medical examiner to document carefully all the findings, correct?
Oh, yes, with notes and photographs. And we took photographs, too, yes.
And doctor, it doesn't matter whether you're the medical examiner performing the autopsy or you're a privately retained expert, such as you are in this case, the need to carefully document exists in either situation, right?
That's fair, yes.
Now, doctor, do you have your notes with you?
I think I have a copy of notes. Yes, sir.
You do. Do you have your note or notes of the examination of Mr. Simpson's hand or hands on June 17th, 1994?
Yes.
Could you produce that for me, please?
I have, there's a copy I think that you have. But also it was documented with multiple photographs.
Your Honor, may this document be marked as People Smith in order? One page.
Show it to Mr.
Be glad to.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Robertson? 580, 580? I'm gonna have to get a clerk who talks louder.
Exhibit 580, Your Honor.
580.
Then may I approach?
You may.
Now, Doctor, this exhibit is the only documentation in a written form of your observations of both the left and right hands of Mr. Simpson on June 17th. Is that correct?
The only written material, yes.
Mr. Fairtlow? May I ask you please to put this on the Almo? Now, Doctor, we're looking at the upper portion, and in fact, what we're looking at now is your written notation concerning the left hand examination. Is that correct?
Yes, I can't see it very clearly, and
Let me give you, I think I might have another clean copy of that.
thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure that I can find it that
All right,
quickly.
why don't you give the copy?
See you, Mrs. Robertson. I'll have one of the law clerks make a quick photocopy.
I'll tell you what, let me give the doctor it's marked up a little bit, but he'll be easily able to tell.
Thank you.
Who's this is? Now, doctor, you only reflect in this notation the left hand, is that correct? You make no reference with respect to the condition of the right hand.
That's correct.
And doctor, did you follow the testimony of Dr. Robert Huizinga when he was called by the defense as a witness earlier in this trial?
Some of it, not all of it.
Have you read his testimony?
No.
Have you heard
He was present at the time.
Have you heard his testimony regarding his examination of Mr. Simpson's left and right hands on June 15th, and then his presence when you were examining the hands on June 17th? Did you hear his testimony?
I recall testimony that he gave relative to what he saw in his office on June 15th.
Now, doctor, do you recall hearing him say, in response to a question I asked, that he found on the left hand 3 or 4 cuts, depending on how you want to define the cuts, because there's one that had an interruption, which if it was all part of one process would be 1 cut rather than 2. Do you recall that?
I believe so, yes.
Do you recall him also saying that he observed 7 abrasions to the left hand?
I recall some of that type of testimony. I'm not specific, that there were additional injuries that he saw that I had not seen.
Doctor, let me just briefly refer you to some testimony that was given by Dr. Huizinga, referring to page 37, 267 of the transcript, line 18 through 20. How many separate abrasions did you identify?
Just a second. Mr. Blazer, do you have that available? All right. Mr. Blazer has it available.
Question, how many separate abrasions did...
Hold on.
Starting on line 18.
Hold on.
Doctor, did you hear this testimony from Dr. Huizinga? Question, how many separate abrasions did you identify? Answer, 7. Question, and did you also count the number of cuts to his left hand? Answer, yes, I did. Question, how many did you identify? Answer, 3 cuts, one of which on the 4th finger had both an A and B portion. Question, that's the ring finger, correct? Answer, correct. Did you hear that testimony before, doctor?
I think so.
Doctor, how many abrasions did you identify in this note that you made of your examination of Mr. Simpson's left hand on June 17th?
I did not see those abrasions on the 17th, which was 2 days later, and I did photograph Mr. Simpson's hands with Dr. Lee, and to document the injuries, and I don't recall there being abrasions at that time,
May I approach
which
that?
is 2 days later, so they could have healed.
These are the previous student one.
These matters have already been marked. Do you need to see these? Let's bring them over.
I would like to see what you're referring to.
All right. That is a common courtesy. You're right. Mr. Galbraith?
We'll show the doctor in the 518 series.
All right, Mr. Shapiro, do you want to approach and take a look at these as well, the ones that Dr. Bodden has in his possession at this moment? Take your pick. All right, proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, let me show you, if I could please, first Exhibit 518E. Have you seen that photograph before?
Doctor, you can take it out of the holder. if you
Thank
like.
you, sir. I believe I have, but I'm not sure what day it was taken.
Let me show you 518C. Have you seen that photograph before?
Yes, but again, this wasn't taken by me.
Doctor, do you see in the 518C that there is a blue ruler?
Yes, I believe it's supposed to be a gray ruler. It turns out blue in this.
Doctor, did Dr. Lee or you, in the course of having photographs taken, have a ruler placed in the photographs?
In some of the photographs, we have rulers, yes.
And if Dr. Heisinger did not use a ruler when he was having photographs taken at his office on the 15th, would that indicate to you that if the photo has a ruler in it, that it is a photo taken on the 17th?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We only have 17% gray rulers, so that doesn't look. It has the form of a ruler that Dr. Lee or I would have used, but not necessarily, but not the right color.
I'd ask Mr. Fairlow to put 518C on the Elmo.
He said he's seen the photo, Counsel.
Doctor, I want to invite your attention if Mr. Fairlow can zoom in on the left thumb area, please. Doctor, do you see the area that is highlighted now by the close-up of this photograph?
Yes.
Do you document that, what appears to be an injury below the thumbnail?
I don't recall seeing that, and I do not believe this is a photograph taken on the 17th.
Doctor, then if it was taken on the 15th, your testimony is that that injury, you do believe that that's an injury, do you not?
Yes,
Would you call it an abrasion?
that's fair. Yes.
Is it your testimony that it healed between its state as seen in this photo, if the photo was taken on June 15th, and when you saw Mr. Simpson's hand on the 17th?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Now, doctor, is it your testimony then that you saw none of the 7 abrasions that Dr. Heisinger said were present on the left hand, along with the cuts?
I did not. I do not recall seeing any of those abrasions.
And you don't document any of them on your note?
No,
do you?
I don't have them in my notes, and I would have to check the photographs taken on the 17th that were further documentation.
And now let me ask 518E could be placed on the Elmo, and ask Mr. Fairlow, looking now more below the fingers, back of the hand. Doctor, there was a stipulation that these photos were taken on the 15th and the 17th. Defense counsel offered it and I accepted it.
Correct.
Yes, but that's not a foundation that this doctor has seen these on the 17th, never taken on
Has-
the 17th.
Doctor, what we are looking at on this photograph, did you see this area that's highlighted now when you examined Mr. Simpson on the 17th?
No.
And do those appear to be abrasions?
Foundation, is that a question?
May I see the photograph? It's a little blurry here.
Sure. May I take it, Mr. Fairlow?
Yeah, there appears to be a healing, some kind of healing mark that you were referring to
And
on
if
the back
Doc-
of the hand.
and if
It's
Dr.
sort of a- yeah, I'm sorry.
And if Dr. Heisinger referred to it as an abrasion, would you trust his judgment on that?
Yeah, yes.
Now, did you see abrasions along the left wrist of Mr. Simpson when you examined him on the 17th?
I would have to look at the photographs taken on the 17th because I have a notation in the sheet that you gave me and that you've retrieved of something on the wrist, in the area of the wrist, and I just don't recall.
First of all, let me just show you one of the defense photographs, which is 1249, and ask you if that appears to be a photograph taken on the 17th when you were present or at some other time and location.
it appears that this photograph at the top that you're showing to me, 1249, was taken at the time that I was examining Mr. Simpson on 17th.
Let me show you what's 516. I'm sorry, it's 516. Does that also appear to be a photograph that was taken on the 17th, Doctor?
I think so. I think so, from the surroundings.
Now, Doctor, do you see on the lateral side of the wrist what would be the ulnar side, I believe? Do you see what
May I
appeared-
see the notes that they took back? That'll
Sure.
help me.
And I'm giving the doctor back my copy because I think we
Yeah.
still have it for the Elmo. I'd like it back on the Elmo.
What I refer to in my notes that is on the medial aspect of the wrist, and when I say medial aspect, it's the pinky side of the wrist, the side into the body in the anatomic position. I have here a ½ inch in front of the wrist and 3/8 inch back of the wrist would be the what appear to be abrasions that are shown on this photograph that you just showed me.
You don't list them as abrasions, do you, Doctor?
It says wrist, medial aspect, ½ inch distal to wrist, 3/8 inch proximal to wrist. And I will have the original of this waiting for me at the hotel when I come back to see if anything was left out. But in my opinion, I was referring to the abrasions.
My question is, sir, did you use the word abrasion?
It's not here on this Xerox copy.
Now, sir, did you appear on NBC Dateline on June 23rd, 1994, regarding your observations of that hand of Mr. Simpson's, the left hand?
Yes. Is this a Burrell's transcript?
I'm afraid I'm not familiar with the company, Your Honor. Through our media relations, I've been provided with this.
Some time, this appears to be a whole segment. And
But
if we-
are you just focusing on one particular
Absolutely, and I
passage?
showed Mr. Shapiro which area I was focusing on.
just to make sure it's in proper context, can I just have a few moments? I don't want to
Sure.
interrupt. Or maybe-
Take your time.
Thank you.
Zach, thank you for the gifted memberships. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, go for it, please. All right, thank you, counsel. Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Bodden, did you in fact appear on a Dateline NBC program June 23rd, 1994, in which you were asked about your examination of Mr. Simpson's left hand?
Mr. Kellberg's entitled to lay the foundation under 770 as he chooses. Proceed.
I don't specifically recall, but if you have that date, I would agree with it, I guess.
Doctor, on that program, were you asked by a reporter by the name of John Larson whether on the 17th of September you looked at the cut hand of Mr. Simpson, and did you give the following answer?
17th of June?
Yes, that your examination was on the 17th.
Of June, you said
Yes,
September.
of June. I'm sorry if I
Okay.
misspoke. Your answer, I looked at the injury. There was very whatever cuts. I think saying cuts gives it a magnitude it doesn't have. They were tiny little marks on the body, on the hands. And then the question from the reporter, could they have been the result of a struggle? And your answer, they could, may or may not be consistent with a struggle. Certainly it is not consistent with a lot of struggle. I mean, there's no other marks on the body. Did you give those answers to those questions asked of you by a reporter?
I do not have an independent recollection, but I would agree with what you say. I mean, I have no reason to say what you're reading to me isn't what I said.
Sir, in that, you never mention any abrasions being seen, even the two that you indicate may be reflected by this lower entry on your form, correct?
It's argument that this is a copy-paste interview.
You may answer the
From what
question.
you read to me, I didn't say anything about abrasions, and I agree with you. I think that my mark, that wrist that's on the elbow, refers to 2 abrasions, yes.
Doctor, in your answer here, were you trying to minimize the significance of injuries that you had seen on Mr. Simpson's left hand on June 17th?
I don't think so.
Well, in fact, sir, you testified that these were cuts, correct?
You mean,
Here in trial, you testified they were cuts that you observed. Isn't that correct?
yes.
You said on the interview, I think saying cuts gives it a magnitude it doesn't have.
Well,
Were they cuts or not, sir?
I think that there are 2 cuts.
Overruled. Have a seat.
I think I called a laceration on the back of the 3rd finger, not a cut, a laceration, and cuts on the inside of the 2 hands, of the 2 fingers. But I'd like to, if I might, could I see that in context, because I was responding to whatever the situation was at the time. I'm not there to give a full medical workup to the media, but
Well, doctor, you were not obligated to talk to the media, were you, Dr. Bodden?
that's correct. I am not obligated to talk to the media.
You could have told the reporter to go pound sand, that you've been retained by the defense, and it's a privileged communication between the client, Mr. Simpson, and an expert retained by the lawyer, Dr. Bodden.
I could always refuse to talk to the media, certainly.
But you didn't, did you?
I did not.
Could you show Dr. Bodden the
Sure.
transcript that you're referring to, please?
Sure.
Dr. Bodden, feel free to take a moment and see if the context is appropriate.
Yes, it's hard to get it in context because they're voiceovers and there are many different people talking.
Pretty
But
funny,
I think what you
Kenny.
quoted me saying is sounds accurate.
Now, sir, was it your opinion that those injuries could have been the result of a struggle between Mr. Simpson and another human being?
I think that's what I said, and I would have to agree with it.
Now, doctor, you also said, in response to a question from Mr. Shapiro, that the source of the cut on the middle finger of the left hand was more likely from glass. Is that correct?
Yes.
But in your opinion, sir, could it have been caused by a knife, a sharp-edged knife?
It could be, but that's not my opinion. No, my opinion is it could be, but very unlikely, because a sharp knife would not cause as jagged a cut. And may I see what I said there, please, once again?
See what you said.
What you quoted, yeah, because I think I misspoke just a moment ago. What I said on the program was they may or may not be consistent with a struggle. It is not consistent with a lot of struggle because there are no other marks on the body. So the only place I saw injury was on the hands. He had a lot of injury, a lot of old heel injuries on his body from previous. So it could or couldn't be a struggle, but I can't exclude a struggle, but it didn't look like a significant struggle, is what I was trying to convey. And there were small cuts on the inside of the fingers.
Were those cuts consistent with a sharp knife, sir?
Yes, could be the edge or tip of a sharp knife. I can't exclude that.
Doctor, did you ask Mr. Simpson on the 17th when he received any of the injuries you identified in your examination?
See counsel at sidebar with court, please.
All right. The question was, when? Did you ask him when he received those cuts? Let's see who wins this sidebar. Let's see who wins the day.
All right, thank you, counsel.
Let me re-ask the question, doctor. Did you, on the 17th of June, ask Mr. Simpson
He won.
when he received any of these injuries?
Yes, I believe I did.
And what was his response on the 17th of June with respect to when he received any of the injuries?
His response was that he received cuts on his hand, on the third finger, on the knuckle, in Chicago, the 14th, I guess, on June 14th, just before he returned to New York, and that he may have cut himself on his fingers before he came to, he got on the airplane while getting his stuff together, but he didn't really know because he cut himself very frequently. He has a lot of, and he did have a lot of nicks and bruises that were old and healed up.
Did he say to you, sir, that he received any of those cuts while he was still in Los Angeles on the 12th of June in preparation to go to the airport for a trip to Chicago?
Yes, that he had cut himself. He wasn't quite sure how he cut himself. And noticed he had been bleeding, but didn't know how it came about in his home, someplace in his home in Rockingham, before he got onto the airplane going to Chicago.
And which cut or cuts did he refer to as receiving before leaving his home on Rockingham to go to the airport?
My interpretation was...
I'll move to strike, Your
What?
Honor, as non-responsive.
Overruled.
Yeah, my interpretation was that one of the cuts on the distal inside of the fingers, the third or fourth finger, not the one on the knuckle. The one on the knuckle, he clearly recalled cutting himself in Chicago before coming back, I guess, on the 13th, not the 14th, and that he had a cut on the inside of one of the fingers, which he didn't even realize had happened until he saw some blood coming out of it.
Is that what he told you, or is that what your interpretation is?
That's the best of my recollection. I didn't tape record it.
Now, doctor, did you ask him on the 17th how, the mechanism, the manner in which he got any of the cuts you observed?
Yes.
What, if anything, did Mr. Simpson have to say as to the manner in which he got the cuts?
That he recalls some blood after trying to retrieve his phone or some material from the Bronco, from a car that he had his phone. I think it was a Bronco. That he had gone to the Bronco to get something and may have somehow cut himself while getting stuff from the Bronco to bring with him to Chicago.
And what, if any, explanation did he give for the cut to the middle finger?
The knuckle and middle finger was that he broke a glass in the hotel room in Chicago after hearing about his ex-wife's death.
Now, doctor, as a forensic pathologist, by training, do you usually treat with some suspicion self-reporting made by possible suspects in crimes?
Sustained.
Doctor, did you accept Mr. Simpson's explanation as the truth?
Sustained.
May I be heard on that, Your Honor?
Sustained.
Doctor, the injury to the middle finger that you say Mr. Simpson claimed was due to glass, did he show you how you could get a cut along the middle finger, the back of the middle finger, by having some involvement with glass?
Well, he said to me words to the effect that after hearing the news by telephone, he was at a sink or something and squeezed and broke and banged the glass against, as I recall, the sink top right next to the faucet, right next to the sink faucets, and somehow cut his back of his finger from the shattered or the broken glass.
Did you see any cuts to the palm of his hand?
No, his palms of his hands had no cuts, as I recall.
Did you see any cuts along the edge where the pinky finger is?
No, I had the you had the photograph showing the scrape marks on the inside of the wrist at that area.
Those are not cuts, are they, sir?
Well, they're scrapes. They're not cuts, they're scrapes.
And that is something that is consistent with, for example, Mr. Goldman scratching or rubbing across that area of Mr. Simpson's arm if Mr. Simpson had Mr. Goldman from behind with his left arm, as Dr. Lakshmanan demonstrated. Isn't that correct, sir?
Evidence calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Now, I think that whole demonstration with Dr. Lakshman I have difficulty with, and I think that because it's purely speculative, but there are many ways in which one can scrape the inside of the wrist, and it could have happened on Monday, on Sunday, on Saturday, on Tuesday. There's no way of dating when it happened, except that it was healing when I saw it.
My question to you was, assuming that Mr. Simpson did have Mr. Goldman, as Dr. Lakshmanan demonstrated, with his left arm around the chest of Mr. Goldman, his right hand holding the knife at Mr. Goldman's neck, making those two parallel superficial incised wounds, is it consistent with what you see as the abrasions along this area of the wrist, that that can be caused by Mr. Goldman's effort to free himself from that bar arm hold?
That's not my opinion. I don't think it's consistent with that.
Doctor, how, in your opinion, can somebody get a cut on the back of their middle finger from slamming a glass down without having cuts or other injuries in the palm or pinky or fourth finger areas when the glass is slammed down, if in fact that ever occurred?
If the glass is slammed down and they're broken shards of glass, a piece of glass, and the individual tries to move it aside with the back of his hand. People can get cuts on the back of their hands from broken glass. I mean, they're not grabbing the cuts, they're shaving into the sink, because I did see photographs from Chicago of glass in the sink, and if he were to have moved the glass with the back of his hand, it's possible to cut himself.
Did he ever tell you he moved the glass with the back of his hand and that's how he cut himself?
He told me he didn't, he was so disturbed he didn't recall exactly what happened, except that he cut himself, and then there was blood on the sheet next to the telephone, which gave support to that.
Your Honor, I have a series of photographs that counsel has seen.
I haven't seen the data, I don't know what photographs they are.
They were provided to counsel.
No, we've gotten thousands of photographs.
No,
I don't know what they are. These are the Chicago photos.
Proceed.
Very similar.
Your Honor, may they be marked, I think we're at 581A through whatever the last appropriate number will be, letter.
Letter. A through whatever. So we'll need to mark them so the record will reflect which one we're referring to.
I will, Your Honor. I'm going to mark them as I get to them. May I approach? Doctor, let me show you what I'll first mark as 581A, and it has a designation already, number 16 in the upper left-hand back corner.
Yes, sir.
Do you see that?
Yes.
Is that one of the photographs you looked at?
Yes.
Let me show you a second one. Ask that that be B, and it has the number 1 in the upper, what would be the lower right hand as one looks at the photo. Did you look at that?
Yes.
Yes,
And C, another photo, this one has the number 5, so may that be 581C.
Yes.
Mr. Douglas said it was, he
keeping track of our exhibits, ask that if they may be described a little better for sake of keeping our records.
Well-
Appreciate it.
We'll make that available to Mr. Douglas at the conclusion of the court day.
As D, the photo that has number 8 on the back.
Yes.
This is A, 581A.
It appears to be a photograph of a sink with what appears to be glass in the drain area.
Doctor, assuming that this is a photograph taken in Chicago, after Mr. Simpson had been notified by the Los Angeles Police Department of the death of Nicole Brown Simpson, and that the room was secured at some point after that call, and found in the sink was what you see in this photograph.
Yes, sir.
Do you see what appears to be any blood on any aspect of that glass?
No.
And showing you the balance of the photographs, I don't know how closely you had an opportunity to look at them. This is B, showing the sink area and the floor. Do you see, at least on the sink area, what appears to be blood anywhere?
No, I don't see any suggestions.
And this is, I believe, this is the one that's marked number 5. I believe this is C, showing the left side of the sink with a partial picture of the glass. Do you see that?
Yes.
And again, do you see any evidence of blood?
No, I do not.
I've got one more. Just mark 4. Well, Dr. Biden, I'll be glad to show you the front of the hotel, if that will be of any assistance to you, but I don't think it will.
Counsel, he gets to conduct his examination and show what he wants. You can do whatever you want and redirect.
We have the last photo. Oh, did I only give you 3? I'm sorry. And now a photograph showing the right side. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
And again, the question, do you see what appears to be evidence of blood?
Not in those photographs.
Now, doctor, if the glass had been slid across into the sink and a cut had been incurred in that fashion, would you expect to see some smearing of blood along the surface where the action is taking place?
Might if the bleeding started right away and if it weren't washed off in the interim, afterwards.
That's a very vascular area, this area of the middle finger around the knuckle. Isn't that what you said?
I didn't say that, but the hand is vascular and the knuckles are vascular. One bleeds from that kind of a cut, and I would expect him to bleed pretty quickly. I don't know. These photographs were obviously taken many hours after the incident, so I don't know.
How do you know that, doctor?
Because I assume there was no cameraman in the
I'll
hotel in his room when he did this.
I'll move to strike, non-responsive.
Overruled.
Doctor, you have no personal knowledge, do you, as to when these photographs were taken in relationship to the injury allegedly being incurred with a broken glass?
Correct?
I do have some knowledge that these
You
were
have no-
taken after he checked out of the hotel.
You have no personal knowledge?
No personal knowledge.
And you don't know when an inspection of that room took place in relationship to when Mr. Simpson checked out of the hotel, do you?
That's correct.
And you don't know if during that inspection, this was the condition that the room was found in and it was secured for the police to arrive. You have no personal knowledge to
That's
dispute
correct.
that either,
That's
do you?
correct.
Doctor, by the way, did Mr. Simpson tell you when he went out to the Bronco to get the phone and allegedly cut himself possibly on that area, fourth finger?
He told me that while preparing to go to Chicago, at some point he went to the Bronco to get a phone and maybe other material, and he also did things around the house and the kitchen, and at some point he noticed some blood, but from it coming from his finger, but this was shortly before he left for Chicago.
Doctor, at the time you talked with Mr. Simpson on the 17th, had you been apprised by listening to anything or seeing anything indicating that Mr. Simpson's blood had been found in the Bronco and at his Rockingham home, found by police?
I don't recall. I don't recall what I knew at that time. I had not known, I doubt it, because I didn't know too much about it, about the death and the investigation until I came into Los Angeles at Mr. Shapiro's request, and that was just a few hours, the evening before Dr. Lee and I came to Mr. Kardashian's house to examine Mr. Simpson. So I don't know what I knew at that time, Mr. Kelberg.
Next one, Your Honor. Doctor, you were in communication with Mr. Shapiro between the 14th and the 16th when you arrived, correct?
Yes.
And did you ask Mr. Shapiro at any time during the course of those conversations, basically what was the status of the police investigation?
I'm going to sustain the objection to that.
I'm going to move to a different area. And, Your Honor, are we going to 5, is it? 5. Okay. Doctor, you talked about the stomach contents. Do you recall your testimony in that regard?
Yes, Mr. Kelberg.
And would you expect that Dr. Golden's description of Nicole Brown Simpson's stomach contents would not be a difficult task to do? That is, a trained forensic pathologist can examine stomach contents and identify, sometimes by the naked eye, what the contents are.
Yes, that can be done.
Now, sir, Dr. Golden identified rigatoni, correct?
Yes.
He identified black olives.
In the report, it says rigatoni and spinach leaves.
And did you hear the testimony?
And in the tape, some tape, he said black olives that isn't included.
But on the dictation, he actually included black olives, right?
Yes.
And a leafy material that appeared to be like spinach, correct?
Yes.
Doctor, did you ever contact people at the Mezzaluna restaurant to see what was served that night to the Brown-Simpson party?
I made inquiries. I didn't call Mezzaluna restaurant, but I asked, discussed that with Mr. Shapiro about finding out that information.
And did you find that, in fact, there were pasta dishes served which come with rigatoni?
Sustain. Rephrase the question.
Doctor, did you receive information that Nicole Brown Simpson had rigatoni?
Sustain.
Did you hear the testimony of Tia Gavin, the server?
No.
If she testified that she had heard, after the incident, from talking with the other employees, that Ms. Brown Simpson had rigatoni, number one, would that refresh your memory of any information you received in that regard? I have the
Sustain.
transcripts here, Your Honor. I'd like to be heard.
Sustain.
Referring court and counsel to pages 13568, 13568. I'm sorry, with or without?
Without.
I want you to assume that Tia Gavin testified as follows in this case, and referring court and counsel to 13568 and 13569, starting at line 18. Question, do you have any independent recollection as to what Nicole Brown Simpson had for dinner that night? Answer, no, no. Question, do you have any way of refreshing your memory as to what she had for dinner? Answer, only discussions that happened after the event. Question, discussions with who? Answer, people in the restaurant, employees, fellow employees. Question, and did that refresh your memory as to what she had for dinner? Answer, yes. Question, and well, what did they tell you? Answer, rigatoni. Doctor, assuming that that testimony was given, would Dr. Golden's findings in the stomach contents of rigatoni tend to support the accuracy of Tia Gavin's testimony as to what Nicole Brown Simpson had?
Rephrase the question.
Doctor, assuming Dr. Golden had no information at the time of the autopsy as to where Nicole Brown Simpson had eaten dinner on the 12th and what she had had for dinner on the 12th, and he identified rigatoni in the stomach contents, along with a leafy material, apparently like spinach, and black olives. Would that be consistent, sir, with the testimony of Tia Gavin?
Sustain.
Doctor, the menu, did you ever see the bill from Mezzaluna that showed the entries?
No, I did not.
Mr. Kelberg, isn't the issue whether or not that testimony by Tia Gavin would have any impact on Dr. Baden's testimony here about the presence of rigatoni in the stomach contents as it relates to the time to digest and the time of death? Isn't that the issue?
It's certainly part of the issue, Your Honor.
All right. Why don't you ask him that
I'll do it a
question?
different way.
All right.
Dr. Baden, you said that rigatoni as a pasta will break down from its identifiable condition within a half an hour?
Yes, usually within a half hour, maybe a little longer, depending on how much is eaten.
What research are you relying upon, if any, to support that view?
Studying stomach contents at every autopsy for 30 years.
Well, sir, if you study the stomach contents, you would have to know, A, the exact time of death, correct?
Not necessarily, Mr. Kelberg, because especially with pasta-like materials, the stomach can keep breaking down the materials after death. You see, there's a certain amount of digestive juices in the stomach that keep acting even after a person dies.
Well, doctor, you would need to know then, number one, when the person ate the alleged pasta, right?
Okay, yes.
Where are your studies, if any, have been done that show how you have correlated actual times of eating pasta with identification of stomach contents?
I haven't published any studies along those lines, but this is ordinary medical examiner daily work.
Sir, is it your view that the stomach normally empties within 2 hours of the time of eating?
For a normal meal, 95% of a meal in a healthy person will empty within 2 hours. Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the Bent case, B-E-N-T case?
Yes.
And that's a case where the prosecution in Albany,
I don't
New York,
know.
retained your services on a possible murder of a woman, Joan Bent, correct?
Yes.
And in that case, Joan Bent had been missing for about 11 days when her body was found in the trunk of her car, correct?
Yes.
And her body was basically in a frozen condition given the cold temperatures at the time of these events. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Her husband had given an account to the police reporting her missing, in which he said that they had been together about 4:30 for dinner, correct?
It's relevancy grounds at 352. We go through the whole case, just took a long time to try and hold it.
Correct? Told the police they had dinner about 4:30?
That sounds correct, yes.
And that his wife left about 6:30 in the evening for business, right?
I will accept what you're saying. I don't remember the exact timings on it.
Doctor, and you formed an opinion based upon the contents of potatoes in the stomach that the husband had lied to the police because the form of the potatoes was such that it would have to have been death within about an hour at the most of the meal being taken in by Mrs. Bent. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that was part of my evaluation. That is that the knife cuts, serrated knife cuts on the potatoes, which were swallowed and not chewed, were still
Alleged
identifiable.
potatoes,
And in the
please.
course of your testimony in that case, sorry, I'm just going to get it first before I'll be glad to. In fact, I'm going to use a report first. about the transcript. Let counsel review the transcript over the evening hour, like my binder.
Don't we have a proper procedure?
Now, counsel is appropriate in this hearing. He has been found with inconsistency. It may not be necessary. We'll see.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, your view is that in general, 95% of the contents of a stomach will pass from the stomach within 2 hours of eating, correct?
In a normal meal, yes.
And a normal meal in the Bent case included a meal of 1,000 cc's, right?
It was pork and potatoes, I remember. I don't remember the volume.
Was
But I
it-
do remember they were intact sliced whole potatoes with, I believe, serrated edges on some of the potatoes from the knife.
Doctor, are you relying on any research for your position that the stomach empties within 2 hours, 95% of the stomach empties within 2 hours of eating?
From personal experience, from studies done by giving people barium meals, that is, the radiologist commonly, or used to in the old days, before CAT scans and all, would give patients barium meals and then x-ray the meal to see how quickly it emptied. And my experience and readings, yes.
You were here for Dr. Lakshmanan's testimony regarding stomach contents,
I was.
and you heard him testify about the Belandi study, which was a study using ultrasound to see how a pasta meal went through a person's stomach.
I have a vague recollection. Incidentally, I don't believe I was here every day for Dr. Lakshman. Either I or Dr. Wolf were here. So I don't specifically remember that.
But if you missed it, Dr. Wolf was to fill you in.
Yes.
If Dr. Lakshmanan testified regarding the Belandi study that a pasta meal took 248 minutes, roughly 4 hours, to pass, that would be inconsistent with your opinion about a pasta meal such as a rigatoni meal passing within 2 hours. Isn't that correct, sir?
No, it isn't inconsistent because it depends what you mean by the meal passing. What I'm talking about is the bulk of the meal passing.
95%?
Because, yeah, well, approximately 95%, because the stomach in a normal person has little grooves in it, what are called rugae, and food often gets trapped so that things that we eat can still be in those grooves 24 hours later. But the great bulk of the meal will normally be out of the stomach in about 2 hours.
If Nicole Brown Simpson finished eating at the Mezzaluna restaurant a rigatoni dinner with a salad and left that restaurant between 8:30 and 9, 8:45 as one witness testified, and stopped eating sometime before she actually left the restaurant, sir,
That's the usual way, yes.
and then did not have any additional rigatoni, did not have any additional salad, based upon your view of how the stomach empties, sir, what time of death would you give for her murder?
Objection on 2 grounds. Number one, that she had a rigatoni dinner. And number two, that it assumes sex food.
I have a problem with your question because it depends how much she ate. At the time of her death, 2 hours, somewhere around 2 hours later, according to your theory, she had a half a quart of food in her stomach. That's a huge amount of food. So if you're asking me to assume that she didn't eat anything after she left the restaurant, that's a big assumption. I'll assume what you're asking, but then she would have had to have had a huge amount of food at Mezzaluna restaurant, assuming she was a healthy person, had normal digestion.
Doctor, if you testified in the Bent case that 1,000 cc's was the content of Mrs. Bent's stomach and that constituted a heavy meal, and if we assume that Dr. Golden found 500 cc's in Ms. Brown Simpson's stomach, and that is in fact what his report indicates, isn't it, sir?
500 cc, yes.
And you would describe that as at least a medium-sized meal?
Well, it's the remnants of a bigger meal.
But just the
big meal.
quantity of 500 cc's is certainly equivalent to a medium-sized meal?
Medium to large.
And doctor, assuming that she had her rigatoni and her salad at the restaurant, maybe went for ice cream, but didn't have rigatoni, didn't have salad after that, what would you estimate the time of death to be, given your view that 90 to 95% of the stomach contents is gone within 2 hours of the meal being eaten?
As I recall my opinion in the Bent case
I'm
that you're referring
describing
to,
non-responsive. Doctor, that hypothetical I gave you, my question to you is your opinion in this case as to the time of death for Nicole Brown Simpson given that hypothetical set of circumstances.
leaving out the Bent case, because that you made an improper comparison. Leaving out.
You made an improper comparison. So soon we're about to witness. It's hard to the whole part of it is hard to watch, and it's hard to listen to. The Furman tapes are coming up, and Dearden obviously is the one that they picked to question the first witness about these Furman tapes. And it's hard to describe because obviously he would have strong feelings. We all have strong feelings. So I can't imagine his feelings specifically. But he's on the prosecution, and Furman is their witness. So he has to take this vile and disgusting, I don't even know how to describe it, and he has to find a way to put it to the positive for his side. And he walks this super thin line. He hates everything on the tapes. He doesn't, ever deviate from hating that. We all hate it. It's bad. But he has to ask questions to get this witness to say what we heard on the tapes are not, it's not really what we heard on the tapes, that we got it wrong. And as I'm hearing him while I'm doing these recordings, as I'm listening to him, at first I thought, okay, that's the road he's going to take. I get it now. But the more I think about everything he does a really good job of trying to salvage what we're about to hear soon, very soon. And if you ever wanted to know why OJ was acquitted of this crime, you will have no doubts as to why he was acquitted. In our head, everything is crystal clear right now. Crystal clear. But when you hear these Furman tapes, nothing is crystal clear anymore. I don't think it was the glove that flipped this case right on its ass. It wasn't. And we're getting so close. And I'm listening to these things that they're saying right now, and I know what's coming up. And I'm not switching sides, but I see everything in a completely different light. I wonder what we would think if we heard the Furman tapes months ago during the preliminary. I wonder how we would go through this trial with that information. But I'm so excited to get there. But it's just so different. Everything is different once you hear these vile, disgusting, horrible tapes. You have to wonder. But okay, all right. I know we're 7 minutes early, but we're gonna stop today. I gotta get ready for work. We will pick this back up tomorrow. Wait, we have a couple more days of this guy, guys. This guy's not done. And then we go back to a familiar person. And then it's Dr. Lee. I mean, there might be other people involved in between. Oh, God. I don't know what that is. Guys, what is that? Let me try to make it a little bigger. I'm just wondering if it's rigatoni. What is that? Any idea? Is that like a microscopic picture of a flea or a bug? Or is that a dinner? Or is that... I don't know what that is. I wonder if I can make it any bigger. Hold on, let's try. I think I'm at my limit. Hold on, I'm going to try to make it even bigger. I think I might be at my limit. Alright, now I have to find it. What in the world is that? Is that a bug? No, I can't. Because then it'll look like we've already watched that video. Not only that, it might skip over it. Once we get to it. It's like 2 weeks away. I think it's a bug. I think it's a flea. If you turn, like, it looks like in the top are maybe his legs, and the bottom. I don't think that's a flea. It's just not. Is it an old moldy omelet? Is it a shoe? Okay. I can see the bottom part looks definitely like a shoe. Definitely looks like a shoe. Terry, you're so smart. I said that yesterday and I meant it. Yeah, boot. Tim's. Alright, now we're leaving. Thank you so much for coming out, guys. I appreciate it. I'll see you all again tomorrow. Bye.